I am Alice Marshall, 35 years old. I'm a remarried single mother. While working full-time, I'm raising 2 children born after my second marriage. Today is the entrance ceremony for my older son. He was admitted to an elementary school affiliated with our alma mater through an entrance exam. Both of us took paid leave to enjoy our child's special day and headed to the school gate. Arriving early, we found a line of families taking pictures by the entrance ceremony sign. All smiles. We waited on the side for my husband, who was supposed to arrive a little late, talking about taking pictures together once he gets here. Suddenly, I heard a familiar voice I would rather not have heard.
Alice?
An indescribable unease surged through me. Looking toward the voice, as I expected, I saw my ex-husband. Next to him stood a boy in the same uniform as my son. Could it be the same elementary school? The birthdays are about a year apart, with theirs in May and ours in March. I was surprised to see this situation, but I couldn't ruin the festive atmosphere of the day. Long time no see. As I greeted him reluctantly, he approached with a smile that didn't quite reach his eyes. Perhaps he was unsettled by my unusual demeanor. My son tightly gripped my hand, and I felt a sense of calm from his small, warm touch. Even so, I had no words to offer and wanted to leave as soon as possible. Still, I thought it might be rude to leave without a word, so I said quietly, "Well then," and started to move away, when...
What? Trying to run away? We finally meet again.
Unfortunately, it seemed he had no intention of letting me leave quietly. The ex-husband was looking cheerful, while the boy next to him looked at him with a puzzled expression. Then I heard the sound of heels clicking from afar. Huh? Is that the ex-wife? What? What? Kids? You have kids? Meeting like this is hilarious. A woman I did not want to see appeared behind my ex-husband. The woman who had once overshadowed me with her youth had not changed. She still exuded the same self-importance, dressed in a red mini-skirt and high heels that seemed wholly inappropriate for a prestigious school's entrance ceremony. Honestly, I couldn't understand how she passed the school's entrance exam. Even though I know it's not right to judge, I couldn't help but think of the past wrongs done to me. As I was thinking this, my ex-husband spoke cruelly.
So, an elementary school entrance ceremony, really? You have kids? Could this kid be yours?
Yes, but what?
So, you remarried?
Yes.
Oh, so after I threw you away, you ended up with a shabby, divorced man? Remarried to a man with kids? A defective woman who can't have children?
Stunned by his outrageous words, I heard a loud, obnoxious laugh from the side. After a while, they began a crude conversation, laughing and breathing heavily. What's that? Louis, that's terrible. Saying things like shabby and defective woman, that's lawsuit level.
Huh? Why would that be a lawsuit? Anyone who would marry someone like this is just as bad, right? I thought I finally found a beautiful, highly educated woman, but she's nothing. Not interesting at all. Whether she was too serious and never had fun or just wasn't attractive, I was bored after 6 months.
Well, even if it's true, it's still terrible. Especially in front of the kids.
It's her fault. She didn't satisfy me, so she ended up with a messed up life. It's her own fault.
So mean.
If there were kids, it might have been different, but really, I couldn't have kids with her, so she was a defective woman.
Haha, stop it already. I can't stop laughing.
Well, because she was like this. I met you, and Jessie was born, so I guess I should be grateful in that sense.
Huh? There's no way I'm grateful. Grateful to the ex-wife? Impossible.
Just kidding. I can't be grateful to her, and there's no way she's happy. This kid is probably a child of a divorced man, right? Doesn't resemble her at all. You can't do anything, infertile woman.
Infertile means you can't feel anything?
Ha! Is that related?
It seems so.
Ugh, I was married to an infertile woman who couldn't feel anything. The worst.
Louis, that's terrible.
Well, at least I have you now, and you're extremely responsive.
Oh no.
Seriously, remarried infertile woman with a man who has kids. That's hilarious. That man must be really pitiful.
Ignoring them, I was beginning to feel like I wanted to leave as soon as possible. I couldn't believe that grown adults could have such vulgar conversations so openly in front of a school gate on such a special day. They didn't seem to notice the disapproving looks around them. I had heard enough from them. I wanted to be rid of them soon. As I was thinking this,
Sorry to keep you waiting.
my husband, Teddy, approached with a slightly hurried pace and spoke loudly to deliberately interrupt the ex-husband's crude conversation. Hey, can we talk for a moment?
Ha! What?
We might run into each other again in the future, so let me introduce my husband. At my words, the ex-husband and his wife looked over at the tall man standing next to me. Instantly, the ex-husband's eyes widened, and his expression hardened. The woman next to him was staring in a different kind of shock. Huh? Is this your husband? He's so handsome. Amazing. Ignoring them, Teddy briefly looked at the cute kid in the uniform between them and then greeted them politely.
Good morning. I'm Teddy. Congratulations to both of us on the entrance. If there's anything in the future, please let us know.
He put down our younger daughter and bowed slowly. The two in front of us, somewhat awkwardly, followed suit with a slight bow. The daughter, happy, immediately hugged her brother. The son smiled happily and held my hand. He gently held the little hand of his sister with the hand not holding mine.
What about that child?
She's our younger daughter. She'll be in the nursery class this spring.
2 children.
Yes. Both are my biological children. They're very close and very cute. Looking sideways, Teddy was watching me with kind eyes.
Shall we take a picture and go inside soon?
Yes. Well then, excuse us. I gave a slight nod to the still dazed ex-husband and his wife and walked with my family of 4 towards the school gate. We greeted a nearby mom friend and had a family photo taken. Before entering the gate, I glanced back at the previous spot. I saw the ex-husband, still stiff and unmoving, and the woman and child causing a scene. A few hours later, the entrance ceremony was over, and we slowly headed to the parking lot. The kids were still holding hands, chatting happily. The daughter seemed fascinated by her brother's backpack, staring at it repeatedly. Smiling at their interaction, I heard,
Why are you grinning?
I'm not grinning. It's just so cute. I pointed out the kids to my husband. Shall we have lunch before we go?
It's still a bit early for that.
As we talked, we reached the car. I put the kids in the back seat and was about to open the passenger door when I heard footsteps coming quickly from behind.
A Porsche? Are you serious?
I heard his voice before even seeing him. He seemed slightly out of breath from running after us. Wait. The woman and her son caught up, and an awkward atmosphere settled. I was inwardly laughing at how things had turned out. As I had expected, the man in front of me couldn't accept that his ex-wife was living happily in an unexpected situation with a second marriage. There was no way he could accept it. So, I deliberately provoked him with various elements. Of course, I had no intention of discussing anything on this special day in front of the school gate. I expected that he would follow us later after catching wind of partial information. It all went as planned, and I almost laughed with satisfaction. What? We have nothing more to talk about.
Ha! We have plenty to talk about.
If I deliberately push him away with my words, he predictably bites back. Too easy. I signaled to Teddy with my eyes, and he opened the back seat. He called out to my ex-husband's child, said a quick word to the confused woman, then lifted the child into the back seat where my kids were sitting. Be nice to your friend, okay? I told the kids, handing them drinks and books I had brought, then patted their heads. You'll be fine, I said, flashing a smile before gently closing the door. My ex-husband, who had been watching the entire time, spat out his words with a bitter expression.
You're so calm. Is this all to show us up?
Huh? What are you talking about?
2 kids. A happy family. You're trying to rub it in our faces, aren't you?
As usual, his emotional outburst left me feeling cold. This man's emotions had always swung between passion and rage, and at other times, he'd become indifferent in the blink of an eye. I recalled the days I had been jerked around by these all-or-nothing feelings. Maybe you should calm down a bit? What do you mean by showing you up?
What?
We've just been living our lives normally, the same as always. We didn't even know you'd be here, let alone that we'd end up at the same school. How exactly could we be trying to show you up? If anything, we're pretty uncomfortable ourselves. The man before me fell silent. At least he seemed to have some guilt about what he had done. Fine, I guess I'll bring up the real issue. So, what exactly do you want to ask?
You weren't infertile.
Huh?
You were going to that fertility clinic, right? The one that's famous for infertility treatments. You were going there because you were infertile, weren't you?
Oh, so that's why you've been going on and on about infertility?
Yeah, exactly.
So, what? Are you now accepting that I've had children?
They look like you.
Didn't he just loudly proclaim outside the school gates that they didn't look like me? What is this guy talking about? Well, of course. Everyone says that, especially about my eldest son. People say he looks exactly like me.
Yeah, true.
Right? Of course he does. He's my child, Teddy's child.
But what about the fertility treatments?
I never went through fertility treatments.
What?
I only got tested to see if I was infertile, but I didn't undergo any treatments.
Wait, seriously?
Yep, that's the truth.
Why didn't you tell me that?
Because you kept going on and on about not being able to conceive. It was so annoying that I'll spare you the details, but after consulting and undergoing counseling, I got tested. The result? I wasn't infertile, and I could conceive normally.
What the hell? Why didn't you say anything? I never heard about this.
Maybe because you were too busy going out every night to even ask?
That's...
My ex-husband's words trailed off awkwardly as he glanced over at Teddy. Teddy caught his gaze and, with a radiant smile, chimed in smoothly.
It's been a while, hasn't it? Since that time, why? How do you and Alice know each other? Ah, you're still shaken up. You've been giving me that "how is my former colleague my ex-wife's husband" look all this time.
My ex-husband was visibly rattled again, while the woman beside him just stared blankly at our conversation. Is it inconvenient for you that your former colleague is now my husband?
Huh? No, that's not it.
You really haven't changed. Still terrible at lying, I see.
What?
That actually works out well for me. It's convenient. Besides, Teddy and I have known each other long before I even met you.
What? Alice and I? We're childhood friends. Childhood friends? But there's a big age gap between you two. Yeah, I'm the same age as you. Our mothers were childhood friends too, and both lived in the same town their whole lives. What? You know Alice's hometown, right? With our moms being close, it was only natural that we'd play together as kids. I've known Alice since the day she was born. I've been her big brother-like childhood friend ever since. Though, after I started working, we didn't see each other much. I had no idea. Yeah, I was surprised when I saw you near my parents' house after you married Alice. Wait, you saw me?
Of course he could have seen him. Teddy sometimes visited his hometown. I didn't know back then that they had been colleagues at the same company.
I bet you didn't want me to see you, huh? What? Didn't you ever think about what I might say? Weren't you worried? Hey, stop. Even after you got married, you kept playing around, going to parties, flirting with women at work. You were always up to something. Stop it.
My ex-husband grew visibly more agitated. I couldn't help but wonder why he was scrambling to cover up something that happened years ago. What was he trying to protect? I couldn't stop laughing inside, so I pressed on. What's wrong? Did you freak out when you saw Teddy because you thought all your dirty secrets were going to come out?
That's...
Oh, so that's it. Is the stuff you're hiding that bad?
No, I mean...
What could it be? What's the terrible secret? Even his new wife began to mutter, "Wow, this really is bad," as if realizing something for the first time. Seriously? After all the bad behavior you've shown, now you're freaking out? I shot a polite smile at them. You don't need to panic. I've known everything for a long time.
What?
I knew about all your cheating, your partying. I knew it all.
Why didn't you?
He never expected that I had known everything back then. His utterly shocked expression was so ridiculous that even my laughter died down. At the same time, I felt disgusted with myself for having been so naive to think he wouldn't notice. I wasn't as clueless as you thought I was. Pushing down the desire to lash out, I spoke with a sarcastic smile. There was a girl in my office who loved parties and social events. One day, she recognized you in a wedding photo I showed her. She freaked out and told me everything about your double life. She even gave me pictures and videos of you with other women, saying they might come in handy someday.
My double life?
What? You didn't realize? The face you showed me and your real face were different. But I already knew that. His eyes widened in shock. This man, unaware of the pain he caused, had hurt so many people. Thinking back on how devastated I'd been back then, I bit my lower lip. That girl sent me evidence of your affairs, including with your new wife, right from the start of our marriage. His silence was all I needed as confirmation. And I still had all that evidence, right there in my phone. I can show it to you, if you want. I've got it all with me right now. My ex-husband shook his head vigorously, almost desperately. There's no need to reject it so strongly, I said, laughing loudly, as my ex-husband glared at me. I continued speaking, ignoring his gaze. Wasn't it right after I heard that? I don't think it had been a year since we got married. I got a message from Teddy after a long time, and he insisted on treating us to a meal to celebrate our marriage. It was then that I heard about all the stuff happening at Lewis's company.
Wait, so...
I had probably known about his infidelity much earlier than my ex-husband had thought. His astonished face, realizing this, looked utterly pathetic.
You've got to be kidding. Why? Why did I tell Alice, you ask? Well, it was obvious, wasn't it? The wife of a colleague who kept playing around after marriage was a dear childhood friend. If I had to choose between the two, of course, I'd pick my childhood friend. So, I told her everything I knew, even if it hurt Alice. Better to know early on, right? Especially since it hadn't even been a year since you got married. Everything means everything. You hit on a lot of girls at the company, caused a bunch of trouble with them, and lost the trust of your superiors. Oh, and there was that one time, right? A girl at the company got pregnant and caused a big scene, demanding you take responsibility. Wasn't that why you quit the company?
That's right. Although our marriage lasted only a year and a half, in that short time, my husband suddenly quit his job. He said it was to level up, but in reality, he couldn't find a new job for a while, and spent his days attending interviews and playing around.
Wait, did you know about that too?
Of course, I knew.
Huh? You didn't say anything at the time.
Would it have made any difference if I had? Would you have stopped if I'd said something?
Well, that's...
Doesn't matter. By then, I couldn't accept anything about Lewis anymore. We barely spoke, and you were hardly home. It wasn't about saying something or not, right?
True, I wasn't around much.
And then, your affair partner got pregnant. Lewis, who kept whining about pregnancy, probably saw that as a silver lining, didn't he?
Oh, that's because you never got pregnant. Wait, hold on. How are you pregnant?
What was he even saying? I had just told him earlier. I was perfectly capable of getting pregnant. He should have figured it out by now, but his arrogance was infuriating. I had to control my rising anger. Well, in the end, there was no reason for me to get pregnant.
What do you mean, no reason?
Pregnancy doesn't happen without both a man and a woman, right?
Of course, it takes both. It's only possible when a man and a woman do what they need to.
So, I was able to get pregnant with Teddy, but not with Lewis. How do you explain that? Would he figure it out? Or not? As expected.
How should I know?
He started grumbling. Even the faint hope I had was crushed. I decided to silence him with a single phrase. You are infertile. Time seemed to stop for a moment after I said that. In the next instant, the man in front of me burst into laughter, clutching his stomach.
What are you talking about? I have a kid right here. If I were infertile, this child wouldn't exist.
He laughed in disbelief, mocking me as if I were crazy. Well then, why don't you take a look at your wife's face?
Ha!
Go on, look at her. Everyone's gaze shifted. Standing there was the flashy woman, her face pale, her perfectly manicured fingers trembling slightly. She was trying desperately to hide her expression from my ex-husband. Even though something was obviously wrong, he didn't seem to catch on.
Are you okay? You don't look well.
Yeah. Her faint response didn't stop his complaints, which were now directed at me.
You scared her with your nonsense. That's why she's shaking.
Of course, she's scared. She's probably worried that her long-hidden secret will come out. When I looked at her again, her face had gone even paler, and she looked like she was about to cry.
Stop messing around. You're talking nonsense.
Red in the face and sweating, how foolish can he be? Seeing him continue to protect the woman, completely clueless, I dropped the biggest bombshell. I'm the one who was confused. When we went to get tested, I was fine. You, on the other hand, were infertile.
What?
Honestly, I couldn't deal with it. I was constantly belittled by a man who couldn't even father a child, forced into things, and accused of infertility. I had no dignity left.
Wait.
What?
Test results?
It seems this man only remembers things that are convenient for him. It suits his all-or-nothing personality. When we went for infertility consultations, you got tested once, remember?
Did I?
Your memory is so selective. Who was it that complained at the hospital, saying, "Why the hell do I have to get tested here?" His memory must have started coming back.
Oh.
He muttered in a small voice. It's unbelievable that he could forget something like that. He really is messed up in more ways than one. Teddy told me. At a company drinking party, Lewis bragged that despite never using protection, he had never gotten anyone pregnant.
Teddy, you... What? Should I not have said anything? He bragged like it was some kind of achievement, so I didn't think he'd mind who heard.
My ex-husband, red with anger, looked furious, while Teddy stayed calm. His composure showed just how much power he held over the situation. That's why, even if I didn't get pregnant, it wasn't strange at all. I suspected the cause of the infertility was on Lewis's side, so I brought him along for testing.
Wait, you mean?
Exactly. I wanted to find out for sure, and it turned out I was right. You were infertile. If you doubt me, I can show you the test results. My ex-husband bit his lip, while the woman next to him looked like she was about to faint. So when you introduced her, I immediately knew she'd been fooled. The baby she's carrying isn't Lewis's. My ex-husband, stunned, started shaking as his lips quivered. His voice cracked as he yelled.
Why didn't you tell me?
Huh? It's not my problem. You two were the ones who got all excited about it, weren't you?
What?
You two destroyed my marriage. You left me because of that baby, didn't you? You didn't even give me a chance to say anything.
That's...
The situation with the company girl was a disaster too. Trying to cover it up behind your wife's back. And to think you got into a top-tier company through connections.
Ugh.
Hey, wait. My ex-husband, red with anger and shaking his fists, didn't wait for me to finish. He grabbed the woman next to him by the collar. Stop. Her weak voice tried to resist, but his grip didn't loosen. He shook her in rage.
Whose kid did you try to pin on me, you slut?
His tightening grip began to choke her. I don't know. I honestly don't know. But you were the one who was there for me at the time.
Ha! So it was just because I was there.
That's not what I meant. As her hand joined his on her collar, the grip loosened slightly. She took deep breaths, but he continued his interrogation.
What do you mean it wasn't mine? You knew it wasn't mine, didn't you?
There were rumors going around among the girls at work that Lewis couldn't get anyone pregnant, even without protection. So I thought maybe he was infertile.
What? You gambled on me, hoping for the best? Unbelievable.
I'm sorry.
Did you knowingly force your life onto me?
I'm so sorry. The farcical drama unfolding before me now only served to make my emotions grow colder. Honestly, even witnessing this dangerous situation, I had no intention of siding with either party. On one side was my ex-husband, and on the other was his former mistress who had taken him away from me. I had no emotional drive to stop this spectacle. I glanced briefly at the back seat. Inside the car, faintly visible, the children seemed to be happily looking at a book together, and I silently hoped they wouldn't look this way as I waited for the ugly argument in front of me to quiet down with a distant gaze. 1 month into school, I delivered my son to the school gate today.
Mom, I'm off.
Okay, have a good day. He quickly found his friends, greeted them, and went through the school gate with them. I watched his small back get absorbed into the school building and then headed to my meeting spot with Teddy.
Did you deliver him safely?
Of course. It looks like he made new friends and went into school happily.
That's great.
Today, we were both using our paid leave. I was sending off my son, and Teddy was sending off his daughter. We had arranged to meet at our favorite cafe for breakfast. As we enjoyed the delicious breakfast that was brought to us, we cherished this rare weekday couple time.
By the way, what happened to that child?
The child he referred to was my ex-husband's child. Ah, it seems that child transferred schools. It was in a different class, and I only heard from a mom friend, but after the entrance ceremony, the child didn't come to school at all, and eventually, the seat was gone.
I see. Even though the parents were terrible, the child was innocent.
Yes, that's true. Back then, in the car, the three children were happily playing together with smiles, and the stark contrast with the outside situation weighed heavily on my heart. But there was nothing I could do about it. Even though it was about my ex-husband, I couldn't involve myself in such a delicate matter at that time. Rather, if I hadn't let go of my husband back then, I might not have been able to protect that child's life. I wanted to protect the small life rather than continue the broken marriage. At that time, I simply thought it was best if that small life was protected, but now I wonder if the child, who was born, is truly happy. This thought makes my chest ache. Noticing my downcast mood, my husband let out a small, reassuring laugh.
You're thinking about something troublesome again, aren't you?
Huh? Oh, yes.
It's okay.
Huh?
I saw them the other day. Out in town, the three of them were out together.
Really?
Yeah, and he had a relieved look on his face.
Teddy, who was recalling the sight of the three with a distant look, smiled gently. If that's the case, everything should be okay. I see. So, maybe there was a reason for meeting that day.
Yes, it must have been fate.
Well, honestly, it was exhausting. To Teddy, who made a light-hearted comment, I could only feel gratitude. No matter how much I thank him, it won't be enough. He's someone I need to be with for life. I hope those two become like that too. And I hope they protect that child. While thinking about this, I looked up and saw a faint rainbow in the sky. How did you find this story? Please remember to subscribe to the channel. See you in the next video.